75th Gilmer celebration. Just glad to see everybody out here today. We want to thank our special guest, our Congressman Nathaniel Moran is here with us, and all of our personality portrayers. Thank you for addressing and coming out to this event. So I also want to thank a few people that helped make this possible, which is the Historic Upshur Museum, this building. I am a coordinator here, and Carolyn Marshall is our president here, and we have a host of members that Carolyn Marshall may know her, and our mayor, Tim Marshall, over here. Okay. So the County Historical Commission, I chair that organization also. The Gilmer Chamber of Commerce. Anyone here from Gilmer Chamber of Commerce? Hello there. Okay, Hank's in the back, and of course, Gloria McNucky and Amaret Birch helped tremendous a lot to help get this going. Our local historian is Bill Storms and Mary Kirby, and our photographer, Ruel Felipe. And of course, we have a host of people helping. Also, Small Goods, who helped put together our presentation and did a lot of printing for us. So I'm not going to hold you any longer. I am going to turn it over to our event description, Mr. Bill Storms.
Thank y'all for coming. And I look out and I see everybody in the period dress and things. To me, that's great. People that bought into this deal. We need to be sure and thank the county clerk's office, the district clerk's office, the tax office. Everybody we asked to help all stepped up and did what we asked them to do. And we really do appreciate that. We really do. But on this day, 175 years ago, which technically is on August the 22nd, so that'll be next Tuesday, was when actually the lots sold, and that's formed the town of Gilmer. This coming Tuesday, being the 22nd, was also a Tuesday on the day of the sale. And Mary Kirby, by a roundabout way, gave me a little heads up on that, because Mary had indicated that there was things that were filed on the day before the day of the sale, which that would have been that Monday. And that makes some sense. When you ask somebody, you say, well, it's probably on a Saturday, land sale. Well, that's in today's thinking, not in the real world of 1848. I have to thank Mary again, because Mary is the one that laid all the groundwork for what we're celebrating and doing today for the lots and blocks. She did that back in the 1980s. So Mary, thank you for that. On the day of the sale, we would have had participation from several different people. We'd have had land speculators that their whole purpose was to be here was to buy and sell for a profit something. Okay, you would have had spectators that would have been here that maybe came with other families or just came from around here close, and they would have been up here just observing what was happening and celebrating, and a way to do something other than sit at the house and sweat on an August day in Texas. So, but then you would have had young men coming for an adventure and families coming to change their lives. And that's what we have. Basically, if you look at the lots and blocks and things like that, you can pick a lot of those people out. Not all of the people that ended up being a big influence for the first 25 years, and that's the era we're looking at. Not all those people would have been here on the day of August in 48. So some of those would come in the early 50s. And one of those families that came in the early 50s that stayed around and was prominent and had businesses all through the period of time was the Marshall family. And our own Marshall, Tim Marshall, our mayor, is a descendant from that family. So thank you for having him, and he's going to be portraying his ancestor, as we have 8 others that do the same thing. Warren Roberts, Meshack Roberts, Sam Houston, Jesse Glasgow, John L. Camp, Emma Sampson. So we got 8 of them all together that are portraying, and we especially want to thank those people because they had to step up and get ready, had to learn a little speech, had to get your pictures taken and everything else. So I'll turn it now over to our illustrious mayor, Tim Marshall.
Well, glad to see all of y'all here today. I know some of y'all, I've talked to a few people that said, well, you know, I haven't been here since it was the post office. This used to be the post office. Yes, it was the post office. Now it's a museum. It's the first time they've been in the museum and looked around. And it's really have been a love and undertaking for our museum coordinator and museum staff that have board the members that have put together all this. The history goes back for years and years, and a lot of the stuff that you see around here was donated by people within the county. It didn't come from one particular place. It came from generous contributions from people around the city. And with that, I'd like to read a proclamation. This proclamation is, whereas on April 27th, 1846, the first legislature in the state of Texas formed Gilmer, Upshur County, out of Harrison County to the east, and Nacogdoches County to the west, and Cherokee County. And whereas the first legislature declared the new county would be named for Abel P. Upshur, and supported Texas annexation, and died February 1846 when a cannon exploded on the warship Princeton. And whereas the first legislature declared the county seat should be named for Thomas Walker Gilmer, and as the Secretary of State, Gilmer was also killed at the same explosion as Upshur on that particular ship. Whereas the county organized July 13th, 1846 in the first session of the district court and was held December 15th, 1846. And whereas on August 22nd, 1848, 33 men won bids on lots in the new town of Gilmer. And whereas the businesses around the courthouse square joining with the Historic Upshur Museum, the Upshur County Historic Commission, the Gilmer Area Chamber of Commerce, and other citizens joined in celebration of the early pioneers and participants in the beginning of Gilmer. And whereas we are recognizing the 175th anniversary of that action, now therefore I, Tim Marshall, Mayor of the City of Gilmer, Texas, hereby declare 2023 the 175th anniversary year of the formation of Gilmer on this 19th day of August in the 2023 year of our Lord. In official recognition, therefore, I hereby affix my signature this 19th day of August 2023. I'd like to present this to the museum, and I appreciate all y'all being here. And with that, I'd like to introduce Congressman Nathaniel Moran. He's from White Oak. Everybody said, what's Congressman? They're from, who knows where they're from? Dallas. Oh, he's actually from White Oak.
White House.
One of the white places out there, White House. Because I kept saying, you know, I've got a meeting in White House, someplace. And he's been dedicated to serving the region ever since the 118th Congressman Moran serves on the House Judiciary Committee, House Foreign Affairs Committee, and House Committee on Education and Workforce. Now that I butchered that up, I'll turn it over to you.
I don't know that White Oak wants to be associated with the Congressman. I'm not sure. It doesn't get much worse than association with a politician. I'm joking. It's a pleasure to be here today with each one of you. Thank you for that introduction today, and Mayor, thank you for the personal introduction. And I want to say thanks also for the work that so many of you do to make this historical museum a continuing place here in Gilmer. Our need to not divorce ourselves from history, but to embrace it and to learn from it is critical. It is critical. And so when I come here today and celebrate 175 years, that's really exciting. It's very exciting, especially as an East Texas boy. I grew up in White House from the time I was 2 years old. I was born out in Arizona, and I got here by just about 1 3/4. I was almost 2 when I got here. And so East Texas is my home, and I love East Texas. And the White House, White Oak, and Gilmer, and Mount Pleasant, and Dangerfield, and we're all the same. East Texans have that same spirit. You know what we're united by? We're united by this spirit of having this independent mind, this rugged individualism, right? I mean, that's what embraces the pioneer West and the pioneer East Texas of coming to a new place and founding a new place. It takes an independent spirit. It takes somebody who's willing to work hard and be tough-minded, also faith-based. You know you're not going to get along very long in East Texas, West Texas, Texas generally, if you're not rooted in faith, right? Because that's where the precepts of Judeo-Christian values out of the Bible were the foundation of the principles of the Constitution. And that's where it all begins for us in East Texas is if we lose that foundation of faith, then we've lost our historical tie to the Constitution and the thing that really brings the freedom to us. To be able to do the things that a society needs to do to start something new. Today, we may not have a whole lot of undiscovered regions. It may not be 175 years ago where we're showing up where there's nothing at all. We're starting from scratch. But you know what we do start from scratch every day? Businesses, families, careers. We start those things over and over in the same spirit that enhances our ability to start great locations like Gilmer, Texas, Upshur County, Texas, is the same spirit that guides us today. So I want you to know that I'm grateful to be your representative in Washington, D.C. because truly when I go across East Texas and we talk to people, it doesn't matter, frankly, a lot of times which side of the aisle you're talking to them on, we have the same value systems. We're raising our kids best we can. We're supporting our school systems. We're going to church on Sundays. We're giving back to our communities. I bet you there's not one person in here in the get-ups and the nice costumes that's getting paid for this today, are you? You're not getting paid for this. No. This is something you're doing because you love your community. You love the history. You love to give back to your community. As a Boy Scout leader, they used to tell us, it's 1 hour a week. It's not really 1 hour a week, but they told us that. But we loved it. As a city council member, mayor, I know they're going to double your salary next year. I'm pretty sure. If you know what the mayor makes, doubling it's still zero. And I started out in the city government, and it was a labor of love each week to walk away from my profession and say, how can I help my neighbors? How can I help my community? This is where it's at. The federal government is like a circus run by junior high students. And I'm so glad that you allowed me to be in the ring, to fight for you, and to make it not so much like a circus, to try to bring some sanity back, to try to bring East Texas values and East Texas perspective back to Washington, D.C., and hopefully to the rest of the country. And I appreciate the opportunity to go there, and I see it. I want you to know I see it as a responsibility. It's not a right. You've entrusted me with this fiduciary duty to cast a vote that says, what do people from Gilmer, Texas want to say about this issue? Not what do I want to say about this issue, not what do the people from California want to say about this issue, not what do the people in leadership want to say about this issue. What do the people from East Texas want to say about this issue? That's my job. 767,000 people in East Texas. You guys have one voice in the House of Representatives, and it's me, and I'm honored to be there. I'm humbled to be there. I've got 4 little kiddos that I'm raising. I've got Lincoln. We'll come back to Lincoln. 6, and then Juliet that's 7, Caleb that's 18, and Victoria that's 16. So we had 2. We waited 8 years, had 2 more. Probably wouldn't advise that. You might as well just, if you're going to have 4 kids, I just have 4 kids, because once you're out of diapers, it's hard to make it's real hard. And these days, I'm old enough now, I tell my kids I love them, the little ones, I love them. And I'll do whatever they want to do. We'll have some playtime, but it's going to be tabletop it up. Dad can't get on the ground like he used to. But, when I look at especially my little two ones, first and second grade in White House this year, when I left, I was glad to go to New York and Houston and Lubbock, but at some point, my wife and I were in Houston. We said, we want to go back to East Texas. We want to go back and raise our kids there. And as I dropped them off for their first day of school this week in White House, I was reminded why we're thankful that we made that choice, because we don't have to worry about the craziness of the rest of the world. We have a centeredness here in East Texas that I think the rest of the world is jealous of. And if they're not, they should be, because we know how to live life here. We know how to treat our neighbors here. You guys know when Winter Storm Uri came through, government wasn't going to help you out. It was your neighbors It was your local communities, your local ESD folks. It was not the federal government that was going to really swoop in and save the day. It was neighbor to neighbor, helping each other out, checking on each other, making sure you had water, you were warm, you had some groceries, whatever you needed during that time. It was the local guys at the rural electric co-op and the local PD and the local fire. Those were the folks that were really making the difference in your lives. It wasn't Washington, D.C. So we got to remember that. But as I was dropping my kids off, I was reminded, we talked, they're captive. I don't know if you guys do this when you drop your kids off from school, but they're captives, so they got to listen to you. It's about the only time that they have to listen to you, but they got to listen to me on the way to school. We talked about the things that are important even in elementary school. Showing up on time, which in East Texas means be early, right? That's what it means. Show up prepared. My kiddos, I can tell you, they were prepared. My wife had them on a regimen this summer. You got to read a certain number of minutes a day, and you got to do your workbooks during the summer because we don't want to lose that learning they got last year. And come in prepared. And then what's next? Then you got to work hard when you're there. So you show up on time. You got to be prepared. You got to work hard when you're in class. And then the thing I really love to tell my kids at the end of that is, and you got to treat people right. You got to treat everybody in your class right because you need to be friendly to every one of those. And one of the things I emphasize to them is find a way to be a leader. Lead by example, by your speech, by your actions. The people in this room, as I look out, I have no doubt you are the leaders in the community. Why? Because you're here on a Saturday. You've said, I believe so much in Gilmer, Texas, and the history, and I love this community so much. I'm going to take my day, I'm going to take my time and come out, and we're going to participate together and honor the history of Gilmer, Texas. Honor the character and the culture of Gilmer, Texas, and say to the rest of East Texas, the rest of the state, and the rest of the world, we love our hometown. And you ought to. College football is coming up, and a week or so, I think next week is the first college football game. And I encourage all my friends. I got a lot of friends that are Aggies or SMU Mustangs or Longhorns. I'm a Texas Tech Red Raider or an SFA. But I tell them, you know what? You need to work really, really hard for your team. You ought to. You ought to love your team more than any other. And I can tell you, I love the East Texas team more than any other. And I hope you love Gilmer and Upshur County more than any other. You've made the choice. You've made the decision to stay here and invest here. Continue to do so and know that it's making the difference. It is. And all the other communities in East Texas, I'll tell them the same thing. Build in your community because that's where the difference is made. Find a way to serve in your community. Find a way to fulfill that great call in Matthew 22 of loving God and loving others. We do that by serving God and serving others. And we do that not just in what we do, but in how we do it, right? Because how we behave, how we speak matters just as much or more than what we do and what we say. We need to do it in the right way. And I'm proud to be able to say the people in Gilmer, Texas do that. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I wanted to get up today and come out here and learn more about the history. I've been here plenty of times. I tried a case here when I was a lawyer. I got beat. I won't hold any grudges. I won't hold any grudges, but have some great memories of this area. And my dad used to pastor. Some of you heard me tell this story. I'll end it as a story. My dad used to pastor Big Sandy just down the road. When we grew up in the White House, we'd come up to Big Sandy and pastor a little storefront church there called Gospel Lighthouse. And so you guys know that little pool of water you cross over in the middle of Big Sandy. That's where I got baptized. As a 7th or 8th grader, I think it was right in between 7th and 8th grade. I think my dad was looking for that muddy water Jordan River experience. And so he took us down there and baptized us right along that north side. I'll never forget that experience. I'll never forget the goodness of the people that were there and the goodness of the people that were here. I started my first little business mowing lawns and remember working off. I got my first loan, as it were. First customer said, I'll buy you a weed eater, but it's going to cost you 3 times mowing my lawn. That's how I got my weed eater. She fronted the money and I mowed her lawn 3 times and it was a big lawn. I think she got the better end of that deal. But hey, that's East Texas, isn't it? learned hard work from an early age, helping people out. I'm proud of each one of you. I'm proud to be your representative in Congress, and I'm thankful that you've given me this ability to serve you. So thank you for letting me be here today. That's all I had really on my mind today, but I just want to say Godspeed in your efforts, and continue to build into your community and serve each other, and this community will continue to grow and thrive and be a beacon of light for another 175 years in this state. Thank you so much.
Okay, crowd, before we dismiss, I just want to say, if you have not visited the museum, take time to tour the museum. Also in the front, there's the maps that shows you the locations of those buildings that are open for tour, where you will see and greet those personalities there. And to help out the museum and the organization, if you would, consider purchasing the booklet and magnets, okay? So you're free to go. Thank you.
Remind me to sign in.